Hello, and welcome to Community Voices, where we talk to Humboldt County's movers and shakers. Today's guest, Shoshanna, founder, Redwood Raks Dance Studio. And now here's your host, Paul Bressoud.
Hello, and welcome to Access Humboldt's Community Voices. I'm Paul Bressoud, I'm your host. Today we're speaking with Shoshanna, the founder of Redwood Raks, not Redwood Raks, as some folks might think, dance studio. And what is, you're the founder. Talk about that and talk about what your role is now.
Absolutely. Well, I started the studio, Redwood Raks World Dance Studio, in 2008 in the wake of the space being the Old Creamery Dance Center, which was a beloved nonprofit dance studio for many years in Arcata and in the heart of the Creamery District. Before it was really even called the Creamery District, there were at one point 3 different dance studios in that building. Beautiful hardwood floor, beloved by many, many users of these types of spaces, and the home to a lot of different dance communities. And so when that space, the dance center, folded as a nonprofit organization, it was empty for a little while, and I was seeking a space for a studio at that time, looking at garages with different random spaces, and I was teaching a dance class with including the daughters of the owners of the building, and I was able to connect with them on that space and tried to recreate that same energy that I had loved from the dance center, where it was a lot of different communities having a home there. And we had the swing dancers, the break dancers, the samba dancers, the West African dance scene, all these different communities coming in there and having a place for their own worlds of dance, which was great for a long time. And I started doing birthday parties and kids camps there, and having really a center for international dance in our community. And Raks, as you mentioned, very nicely pronounced, means dance in Arabic. So that's, and as a lifelong student of Middle Eastern dance, that's a word that has loomed large in my studies, as Raksharki is dance of the East, or what that belly dancing is really called in Egyptian dance. And it's been a lovely, vibrant scene for dance. In late 2019, though, it really was, our economy shifted a little bit in our area. And with that, some of people's discretionary income shifted, and it's been a different kind of a challenge to keep things going, like the birthday parties and the model that I'd use for keeping it going as a sole proprietor business, which was kind of a not-profit instead of a nonprofit. And at times, that's not the best setup. So in trying to model my business after a nonprofit, it was kind of silly, really, economically speaking. So it provided this vibrant, wonderful space for people, but it was starting to not pay the bills, right? So there was some investigation into some ideas of how to make it sustain into the future, and it ended up a wonderful group of dancers and teachers decided to come together to help make it become a nonprofit organization. So we did some fundraisers to fund for the fees for that, went through the process, and it's now a 501c3 nonprofit dance-based community organization, Redwood Raks Collective.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
So, but it's kind of back. So it's back to being a nonprofit. Well, it's cool.
But I didn't know that a dance studio could be a nonprofit.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, how did you connect that dot? How did you make that happen?
Because it was a not-profit.
Well, I understand why you needed to do that.
But the model of, because really that space, instead of a model like most dance studios are based on a model of getting kids into programs, and you have the studio offers classes and people sign up, and it's all within a realm of start when you're little, keep going through high school, you have a recital in the fall and the spring, and you build on this student body that's pretty duplicatable, that scenario. This studio is set up so people could rent space for their own programs and rent the space for their own theatrical presentations, because it's one of the very few spaces we have in our community where you can set it up reconfigure it from a dance studio with risers that were custom built on this beautiful hardwood floor to be able to have a show in there. So you have theatrical lighting. It's very rudimentary, but you have the ability to have lights. You can bring out curtains. You can set things up so you can have about 150 people in there to watch your dance piece. And instead of in those smaller spaces like veteran centers or other places where you have a tiny little stage and a big place for the audience, you have this beautiful hardwood floor, and then you can bring in the audience in an elevated way to watch. So you have a good amount of space to dance and move. It's not great for people who don't like slippery slippery floors like point dancers and ballet, and some kinds of and tap dance would hurt that beautiful floor. But it's a beautiful space to be able to present a lot of kinds of dance, whether it's a dance party for a salsa festival or a West African guest workshop coming into town, or a theatrical dance show, modern dance. We've had the 1 minute dances where you have this the space used in a round where you have the audience all around and the dancing in the middle. It's very configurable to all different kinds of things. So it's just that having that kind of model is much more open-ended and flexible, but trying to make it work for everybody is just a model that works better when you have a nonprofit.
Is it? And that's the question then, because it's wide open and it's inclusive, can you show that it's a community center in a sense?
Yeah.
And that's what qualifies it as a nonprofit.
Definitely, yeah, and trying to nurture programs and projects within that. Like in the past, it's had artist in residence programs, and it's had the ability to put on festivals. We've had belly dance festivals there. I've had this Latin dance festival that's making a real comeback after a few years of trying, wishful thinking, trying to get it going in person. Those rooms packed full of dancers dancing have been not so easy to maintain over the last few years. But and this year it has a few projects like that Latin dance festival, and then also the Ferry Festival in Arcata, trying to make community events happen within that. It has a little donation store where people donate things dancers might like, and cultivates a scholarship fund to not only help dancers who want to take classes or attend a camp out of town. Like our area being so geographically away from a lot of teachers and nourishment for artists, that people in the dance and music like to travel to Mendocino Woodlands, to San Francisco, to other places where there's conferences, and bring that back here and share it with our community locally. So helping people be able to do those things and be able to get as much as they can out of those studying opportunities to bring back here is really cool. And then to be able to offer teachers some encouragement and help as they get going in their own teaching journey, and trying to give back to the dance community. So it kind of exists in its own special way as a nonprofit, trying to encourage development of the dance scene and community.
So it seems to me,
Yeah.
okay, that it not only encourages students, but as you said, it encourages teachers. So you were saying your expertise is belly dancing?
Yes, and creative dance for little people.
Okay, and creative dance for little people. So then that's what you do. Now, do you find people to offer other courses, or do they come to you and say, hey, I'm a person that can do West African dance, I can do tango, I can do whatever, and I could offer that? Do you have that kind of connection?
It's really both, because some people are here a long time in our community, and some people are here and go. Like there's college students or students at Del Arte who are here for a little while but bring with them wonderful, amazing skills, but maybe they've never taught their own independent class before and promoted it, or know how to get it really going. So my vision is that the studio can do more of that, offering programming from within the collective, and not just having people come in and rent, but often folks come to us with an idea. Like, I really want to start this class.
Well, let me ask this question then. Do you go ahead and foster and mentor new teachers? I mean, you've been doing it a long time.
Yes.
At a couple of different levels. Obviously, the belly dancing, I would think, would be more of an adult level, and the little kids are doing other things.
Yeah.
So you're able to go ahead and relate both experiences. Is there that type of growth happening within the people that are offering courses?
Definitely, and it's cool at that studio because a lot of those programs like samba and West African dance and swing dance have been around for decades in that space, and the space has changed over time, and sometimes people hand off these styles to other teachers, or other teachers step in, and yet the community remains really vibrant and strong. Like when I started, Monday Night Swing has been a really big thing for a long time, and there were a pair of teachers teaching. They handed it off to someone new, and Kaylin Halliday is now in charge of that scene for 10 years, something more than that, and is one of the board members at Redwood Raks, and helps manage the programs committee, and just really tries to give back to the dance community, and is just, someday he might decide to do something else or feels too overwhelmed with other things, and tries to nurture some new teachers to step in to help facilitate that program. And like the West African dance scene, they've often have guest teachers that come up from the Bay Area and beyond to really inspire and excite the dance community, so they have their class going, but a lot of times they're also saving money within their class classes to be able to bring up artists into the area. So it's everyone has their own way of doing their classes.
Is that something that happens a lot, where you'll have a guest artist come up?
More again, like the last few years, it's been pretty rough.
Right, I mean, we just came out of the pandemic. That's a different question.
Where some of the dance scenes are really still kind of pulling themselves back together again after that. Like our tango scene was really strong and powerful scene with twice a month milongas that would happen in Arcata and Eureka, and they really retracted. And the people that were involved were in the core of it were a little bit older, a little bit more cautious. They really took a while to open up back to the public, and they're just now really starting to have more than a practice time, but thinking about classes again, right? So and workshops, and just some of the scenes were quicker to jump back into the action than others, and some have taken a little more, or new people are in charge of helping nurture them. So it's at all different levels, but that's one of the cool things about the space, that people can try things. You have other people to work with to make things happen, and I love it when there's like at North Country Fair. I help with scheduling the North Lawn stage, which is one of the annual most amazing places to dance and perform, and a lot of people from Redwood Raks are at that. The grassy North Lawn stage, like the plaza grass, is the best grass anywhere to dance on, and so a lot of the community members like to perform at that. And they give us a dance booth. They let us have a space to be able to talk about dance, promote dance. We have a dressing room in the back everyone can use who are connected with that stage space. But it's a great place for people from different studios and different areas around that, whether you're profit, nonprofit, whatever, can come together and talk about movement and dance and have conversations with people who, like, I used to take a class, or I wanted to try something, and you can talk to them about what options are all across the county. So it's a nice, having that nonprofit kind of dance space and a not-profit when I was doing it is a nice place that's kind of neutral ground for a lot of people to find out what's happening across the community. And people might teach there and somewhere else too, and they can, just to build community and let people see what else is out there.
Is that the most high-profile event of the year for the Redwood Raks, when the Samba parade happens?
Oh, that's a good one. That one, actually, this year they aren't even practicing at the space because they've kept too many people. Like they have so many.
They practice at the tennis court at the community
yes,
center.
They do, because they have too many. Because when you get up to 80 or so people, it gets really crowded and hot in the dance studio. It's a 60 by. There's two studios at Redwood Raks, the Jade and the Bella studios. But the Bella studio doesn't have any windows, so it doesn't have as much circulation, and it's got the Arcata Playhouse and other things right there. But the big studio, the Jade studio, is 60 by 40 feet, but still that gets a little cozy when you're talking about 80 plus people. So that they've moved outside for that over the summer. But yeah, that's one of the biggest things. A lot of people who have danced in that parade dance there at the studio across the year. And we have some wonderful teachers like Maria Vanderhorst and Rocio Talavera. Like there's some wonderful folks that have brought really cool energy in those styles to that floor, that space.
Energy. Does anybody match your energy in the
Yes.
They do?
Yes.
That must be fantastic.
No, my favorite, the little tiny dance. We don't have a lot of children's programming at the studio. Most of the classes are programs being offered for adults and teens, and social dance classes with that hardwood slippery floor, the swing dancers, the salsa dancers, the West Coast swing, and tango, and like all those dancers really love that floor and that space. And anyone who likes a slippery space, a lot of barefoot styles too. Capoeira, there's a whole children's and adult capoeira program with Espacio Mendez, and a lot of these groups are the ones that people ask to be a part of their events around the community. So they may be professional, semi-professional, or just community groups that like to share what they love with other people. But yeah, North Country Fair is one of the big ones for a lot of those groups.
Going back to something you just said,
Yeah.
Is that something you would focus on going ahead and trying to get more youth programs and getting kids in there? And I mean, once you get people in the dance community, I love how you say that, the dance community, I mean, if they come in as a young person, are they more apt to stay in the dance community as they go through?
They can, but that's one of the tricky things where it was kind of a not-profit rather than a profitable business, is that it lends itself well to people trying out something new, exploring something. College students are a tough demographic because they come in, they bring their friends, and then they're busy with midterms and finals. They don't come back for a while. High school students, everyone has their own flow. So it depends. If something was nurtured that someone could stay with it and grow with it for a little while, it takes a while to develop a program. Like my creative dance program for little people, I'm so excited to be starting. Like I have 3 to 5 year old class. I'm finally starting.
3 to 5 year olds?
That's my favorite. They're wonderful. But it's a drop-in friendly class. So people, when you're at a regular dance studio, you're locked in for the year. You're locked into monthly class payments. Most of the classes at Redwood Raks you can drop in on easily, and you can also get a class card where they're not sequential. So it's hard to rely on your student base often. So it depends on how how someone designs their program. But I think it'd be a really cool thing for the studio to be able to create more programming. But really, as a new nonprofit, it started right in late 2019. So when the pandemic hit, it was wonderful that it was able to be caught by the structure of a nonprofit and these wonderful 9 or 10 people. It was hard for me as it transitioned to a nonprofit from something that I was in charge of. And we have 9 people who are great, but they all have different interests and focuses. And found ways to fundraise in the community because it was such a new nonprofit, it couldn't qualify for any of the government funding that was out there. It didn't get any help except for from the community. And so, and then the rents went up because it's an old building and it has insurance that skyrocketed. So right now there's stabilization of income sources and program, just trying to make sure that the place can stay open is a big thing right now with rising costs of things and ensure, all those elements. But being a nonprofit and more brains in on the operation is definitely a cool way for people to problem solve and figure out how we can make it happen. This weekend we have a painting party it's a over 120-year-old building, so it definitely has high corners with dusty cobwebs up there, and we're having some painting parties to refresh, get new volunteers in the mix, and just get more community excitement. There's been some fundraising efforts to get some new sound equipment, some new lighting equipment, but then you have to figure out equipment and things that fit everybody's needs at that very diverse community space, which is hard to find. Yeah.
Now, it must have been hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it must not have been hard going from a not-profit to a nonprofit. That must have been a little easier. Yeah. But it must have been hard if you were the sole director to now be, if you're one of 9 on a board,
yes.
11% of the voice.
Oh, yeah, and a consensus-based nonprofit that's decided to win. And, that was really tricky when it comes to masks and vaccinations and spaces and people together and renters doing their own things. And it was really hard, but a really, really great group that's been very strong and excited. But yes, in the old days, I could just ask myself at midnight, do we want to do this? And decide, yes, we do, and go for it. But now it is part of a much bigger process that takes more time. And also storage-wise, I had a lot of things I used for birthday parties, for community events, for festivals, stored there as a home base for using in the community across lots of events. And now my storage space is upstairs and very small. So it's been a tricky transition.
Yeah, tricky transition.
Harder for them than for me, probably. The board's very cool.
And why do you say that?
Just because it has been a space where I've been able to work with a lot of different kinds of community projects and being able to do things on my own more. So it was hard for me to transition, mostly from not being able to carry on the parties and the camps and the projects that I loved so much in the community. I work at the library now as the Youth Services Outreach Coordinator, and so I'm so excited.
The Arcata Library?
Actually, with the county. So I'm based in Eureka Library, but I get to go all over the whole county and be able to nurture programs and develop things and get to connect with lots of families and cool kids all around.
Well, back to the dance community.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you think the Humboldt County, greater Humboldt County Bay Area, I guess?
Yeah, great. Yeah, we're the extended Bay Area.
The extended Bay Area. Do you think that we have a high percentage of folks that are interested in dance compared to other places?
I'm not sure about compared to other places, but we have a lot. But with the spaces that are multi-use spaces where you can explore these kinds of programs that are at Redwood Raks, there's not very many that do things outside just the regular tap jazz and ballet kind of format. There aren't too many spaces for that. It's hard to have a place where you can have the African drums be played and not interact negatively with your neighbors, right? To have a space that's big enough for that. And the samba drums, if you've heard the parade practices, it's big presence.
Can I say something?
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm involved in the softball, and at the end of the year when they're practicing, when you're out there taking batting practice or getting ready and the drums are going, it's just a fantastic time of the year. So,
and then I'm sure when you're playing games, you have those drums woven into your experience, which
rally
is so cool.
time.
Yes, which is so cool, but it's just part of the, like in the Creamery building on Tuesdays, 5:30 for decades now, there's been this soundtrack that's there in the afternoon, evening. So it's like woven into some of the fabric of the community, but it's hard to find places where you can do that really and around our area. So it's tricky.
That's interesting to me. Do you have to tell your neighboring businesses, which would be what at that time? The
Well,
pub maybe?
Yeah,
or
but these classes have been grandfathered into the fabric.
Right,
If you
that's what I
started
was
a new
going to say.
class.
At 5:30, these drums are playing?
On Tuesdays 5:30, it's going to be kind of loud. So even in the other studio, it's like people who want to offer a class at that time, like we'll come at that time and see if you're okay with the soundtrack we've got to work with, or if you need it to be quieter. Like for me, it's hard for me to teach on the other side of the wall when that class is going on because I've got my own music and I get so easily distracted by the music in the other room. But other people, they're in their zone, they're fine. So it just depends on what people are looking for. But Synapsis in Eureka is another nonprofit movement space that we have in our area that has a beautiful performance.
Oh, really?
So that's great.
There is a nonprofit dance in Eureka.
Absolutely,
as well?
yes, Synapsis, and which is taken on many forms. But Leslie Castellano, who's the director of that, is connected with the Ink people. So they have a lot of programs in Eureka there that happen. So yeah, there's some more places and North Coast Dance is a dance-based nonprofit, but they are more ballet focused in their space. They've got a few.
Is this a movement in itself, the nonprofit dance studio?
It's a way to make things happen. I mean, also and some studios have a dance. A nonprofit component, like the dance scene in Eureka has their Sundance Ballet, so their company is a nonprofit, Dream Maker of the Ink people. There's Dream Quest in Willow Creek. They have a whole ballet program through that space too. So there can be parts of various nonprofits that are dance focused. But as far as a space that you can go to, I think Dream Quest, Synapsis, North Coast Dance, and Redwood Raks are the dance-based ones we have in our area.
Do you, or did you, when you were, dreaming up founding Redwood Raks, or now even, do you go around and see other, outside of the area, dance studios and get ideas for Redwood Raks?
Definitely. I mean, Berkeley has Ashkenaz. That's been a long time. A venue where there's parties, there's performances, there's events, there's classes. La Pena, and I think where's that one? I get all their emails, but I think they're in San Francisco, somewhere down there. That's been a space I've gone to a few concerts at, and has been a wonderful weaving in of that one. Especially gets connected to social justice issues and events and activist ideas. So you have a lot of weaving together of what you have in the community and people looking for spaces and then finding that. Like some people are just looking for rehearsing. During the pandemic especially, people were looking for somewhere to roller skate. Like the space Redwood Raks is in used to be, from the Redwood Raks through to the Playhouse, a big roller skating rink. And
really?
when my dad went to college in the 70s at Humboldt, there was a roller skating rink, but still it's a great floor for roller skating. So people rent the space for birthday parties. There's been weddings in there. We've had little fashion shows, CD release parties, album releases, so many dance and workshops, a lot of events where people want to do a workshop and then a show in the evening where you can have a big space for the workshop, move the chairs out and have a show. So that kind of space where you can use it really in a multi-purpose way. There's been some awesome birthday parties in there, crazy dance parties with 3-year-olds everywhere. That was really fun.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
And so you've seen this model around
around other places, but those art spaces you can use for lots of different things. I mean, then there's like the ODC in San Francisco. That's an amazing dance space. It has a beautiful theater that can also be used for classes, and a whole building filled with rehearsal studios and classroom spaces. And you can have a multi-million-dollar facility, but this is definitely kind of shoestring budget, people pulling their ideas together and having a place to do what they want to do, which has been really cool. And the Finnegans who own that creamery building are so open, encouraging artists and creative organizations to do their thing.
So you have a board.
Yes.
And now, as people are being creative and doing their thing, do they come to the board and pitch an idea? Is that how one would go about it if they were to offer some sort of dance class?
Definitely, and there's a mission statement. I'm not going to get it right if I say it now, but it's basically a space that helps to encourage a community. I'm not going to get it right at all. But
I was seeing if I wrote it down.
If you wrote it down,
but
it's
I
on
didn't
redwoodrocks.com. But it's on. But if it fits in the community-minded, inclusive dance, everybody around the world approach that the mission statement so eloquently gives you, it's written. So the board discussed it.
Is there a website people can go to read that mission statement?
Redwoodrocks.com. It's right at the top. I should have reviewed it.
Read the mission statement.
But it really is great. And if things serve that mission statement, then they're well considered. And if it fits with the mix of what's happening there, and there's some ways we can help nurture it, then Yes, absolutely. People want to say yes to projects. That's always been my
Do they have to audition, so to speak?
Not so much. I mean, people bring what they're bringing to it. If it fits in logistically, it's pretty open. We have folk dance, a lot of like a Balkan folk dance meetup where the people are learning the music, and then there's a First Friday that's been happening for decades and is now there. That there's a live music folk dance party with music from around the region, different regions, and yeah, there's just if people are excited about it, yes, they probably
How
can
many
do it.
people are at a Balkans music
Oh my
meetup?
goodness! I think they have like 25 people that go to that weekly on Wednesdays, and then I was just there yesterday, and they had a good number in the little off, like not the first week, the other weeks they have practice of music, which is recorded practice of dances to recorded music. But then the first Friday is the big party with dozens and dozens and dozens of happy dancers and music players. It's really cool.
So some more board questions. I
Yeah,
love governing questions.
Yeah.
Does everyone on your board have to be a dancer?
No, they don't. They are right now. Most are teachers. Like the president of the board, Julie Hayes, she's putting on that Latin Dance Festival, September 22nd to 24th. Very cool event. And Jack Lewis. But some are the musicians and teachers who teach classes, but not weekly regular classes. Tom Boswell's the one who really helps us keep the building functioning and like the doors working or problems happening. He's in the swing dance community, and he loves welcoming new dancers who come every week, but he's not one of the teachers, but he's a dancer. I think we haven't had many who aren't dancers, but it's lovely to have people with other skills in the community, like, fundraising skills, other people who like to help make the building shine.
Well, they can have both. They can be dancers and also as well
other
as
skills. We let other skills sneak
board
in,
members. How many people do you think you have involved right now? And I mean, if you're reaching out to the community, are you always looking for more people?
We're always looking for more people who want to jump in and help in that organizational level, like trying to send out those monthly emails. It takes a few hours to get those things together and out to people. So we have a list, but cultivating that, trying to maintain a good social media presence, maintaining that calendar. I was doing all those things on my own when it started, but having a full-time job somehow, like that really takes an impact on my ability to do all these fun projects. But just having more people excited about it so that those small, any organization I think has a small number of people who do it all. Having more people who can rotate in and share their talents just helps make it more fun and more successful as an organization.
I hate to say this, but that's about all the time we have for today. Which, there are a lot of things still to touch on, like, how classes get offered, the scholarships that are offered to people, all these exciting things that you can find out about on the Redwood Raks website, right? I mean, what would someone go to see that?
RedwoodRaks.com, R-A-K-S, but pronounced rocks. But
there you go.
RedwoodRaks.com. And most classes are available to beginners to jump in on, and a lot of classes you can hop in at any time. So it's a fun place to explore, meet people, and see what there is in our dance community.
Well, I'd like to thank my guest, Shoshanna, for being here. Thanks for joining us. Go out and check it out and join them, maybe. And we'll see you next time on Community Voices.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for joining us on Community Voices. If you represent a nonprofit that is interested in being a guest on Community Voices, email info@accesshumboldt.net. Access Humboldt, local voices through community media.